right. Good morning, everyone. Morning. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome to a beautiful day in Providence, to the Warren Alpert Medical School. And really what I think you'll really enjoy is a fantastic discussion with two distinguished alums around careers in medicine. For those that may not know me, my name is Mukesh Jain. I'm the Senior Vice President for Health Affairs and Dean of the Medical School at Brown. And it's really great to see all of you, students, families, take time to be here, to support your students, to learn about the medical school, and enjoy the city, the campus, and the energy that comes with being around amazing young students. For the students in the room, welcome and best of luck this semester. I know we're just getting going, but and it's a lot of work, but we're really, really glad and we're here to support you. I hope some of you had a chance to hear from some of our medical school deans yesterday. We have what I think is a really terrific medical school leadership team, and they're really deeply committed to your success, not only in the classroom, but in life. And I think that's really, really important for the parents in the room to know as well. And I do want to take some of our leaders are here a moment to express my gratitude for their dedication to delivering not just a great education, but also keeping student wellness and school life balance at the forefront of their minds as they advise our students. Now, along with our leadership team, families, of course, are the foundation and important for every student as a support system. So great that you're here. And this weekend is going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to learn more about what life is like as a medical student, the challenges, the growth opportunities, and moments of discovery. So later today, you'll get a chance to get a hands-on glimpse through our mini medical school sessions, where you'll experience some of our signature learning opportunities in anatomy and clinical skills. Anatomy is always an exciting moment. And you'll hear from Dr. Stephanie Garbin, our Director of Medical Student Research, about the many ways students can explore their passions through research. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who has supported the Brown Medical Annual Fund. Your generosity directly supports student financial aid and summer research opportunities, investments that really open up the doors for opportunity for our trainees. Being a physician is both a rewarding and a challenging call, and at Brown, this is where we begin to prepare students for that journey. To begin our program this morning, we're going to hear from two Brown alum who will share their paths in medicine. And I'll be curious to listen to them and how it compares. People, or certainly students, often think that paths in medicine are a linear experience. And I'll be curious to see, but certainly speaking for myself, it was anything but that. Started as a physician, thought I was going to spend all my time as a doctor, then got turned on to research, then got turned on to leadership. And there's moments along the way, mentors, new opportunities, unexpected discoveries that you make about yourself that change the trajectory of your career. And so that's really, really important. And one of the take-homes that I always tell students is you may have a certain view in mind, but you'll be surprised where life takes you. And for most of us, it really is a non-linear path. But my hope for our students is that they continue to explore, they continue to grow, and during their years here, they'll certainly do that, but we want them to be lifelong learners because that's really, really important for the entirety of their careers. So with those introductory comments, I'm going to introduce one of our amazing medical students, Teniola Ayeni, who is both a Brown undergrad alum and a proud member of the MD class of 2028. And she's going to lead a conversation with Dr. Diamond and Simma-Chiang, our two distinguished alums, and explore how they've navigated their incredible careers. So please join me in welcoming Teniola.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Dean Jane, for this wonderful introduction. It is such an honor to be here. Thank you for your time also in coming to this first ever Careers in Medicine panel. I am a lead ambassador for the medical school, so I liaise very closely with the Office of Advancement and Alumni Relations and have the privilege of being here today with Dr. Diamond and Dr. Chang. So my first question is, would you be able to please briefly introduce yourself and explain your current role or your most recent role in practice?
Hi, so I'm Dr. Vannita Simma-Chiang. I'm currently an associate professor at the Icahn School of Medicine in the Department of Urology. I also hold an appointment with the medical school, and I'm the director for specialty advising.
Good morning. I'm currently retired. I graduated here in 1978 from the medical school. So I've been around medicine for a long time, and I have a long career. My most recent position from which I retired, I was associate director of MIT Medical, which was the on-campus medical system for MIT up in Boston, Cambridge. I was also director of environmental and occupational health there, consulting with all the research and being responsible for on-campus safety and health. I'm currently the president of the New England College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. So although I'm retired, I'm very busy.
Well, thank you both so much for being here, and I hope it's been a warm and nostalgic reentry back into Providence. My first question is, are you able to please share a formative experience at Brown that led you to your specialty choice?
So as I was thinking about this question, I graduated Brown class in 1998, and I was, initially when I came to Brown, I thought I was gonna be an engineer. And when I came and I met all these other wonderful students, I realized I really loved working with people. And not to say that engineers are in the basement all the time, running numbers or anything, but I really, really loved the interpersonal aspect of the human experience. And I decided I wanted to pivot and go into medicine. And one of the formative realizations that I had was when I went and I volunteered at the Swearer Center as an undergrad, and we went into the Providence community and we taught STDs education to teenagers who were studying for their GRE. And I loved working with my co-peers. I loved engaging with the community, and I realized that talking about things that other people didn't really want to talk about was actually a very important component. And I think that that was foundational to urology. Urology is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, genitals, prostate cancer, things like that, incontinence, very intimate things. And I felt that that was very rewarding, and I wanted to be that person for my patients. So I think that was the foundation for me to be more comfortable with the idea of doing a specialty like urology.
So I didn't know what specialty I wanted even as I graduated medical school. I came to Brown 1970. There wasn't a medical school here. It was just being formed. I was the third class. I majored in metapsychology, which was philosophy and psychology. I got the basic pre-med, but I also took art and music and kind of a liberal arts education. And the concentration was in human studies. And there was a professor here, George Morgan, who kind of looked at the human experience from every perspective. And my whole question was, this was a question that I posed to myself as a freshman, what do I want to study? And I said, well, who am I that I can study? What is this whole thing of consciousness and everything? So I went through all the liberal art curriculum to try to see all the different insights into that. So very much a humanistic background. And I was vaguely pre-med, but I also came here because Rhode Island School of Design was down the hill, and I'd done some commercial and personal artwork, and I thought I'd cross-register. I did 1 or 2 classes, but eventually I thought medicine would be a better career than art. And the medical school was launched, and I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time to be tapped to be one of the first classes. And one of those early experiences was a community medicine rotation. I went to Fall River, and there was a family medicine doctor there, and I spent a week shadowing him and his Labrador retriever, who walked through from room to room to the patients. And the patients knew him, he knew them, he knew their children, he knew their parents. The relationship was so rich and strong and so much part of the process. And it just seemed to me that's the kind of doctor I want to be, you know, kind of a Marcus Welby. I want to know my patients, I want to be with them. And so I ended up, you know, matching into internal medicine, because I didn't really have a target specialty. I thought I'd just be a general internist.
Thank you both for those stories. That's really beautiful to hear. So once you did decide on your specialty, were there any key things that you were looking for in terms of choosing a residency program?
Sure. So, when I decided I wanted to go to medical school, I leaned. So my mom was actually an ER nurse, and in the '90s, I don't know if some of the parents here in the room remember, you know, ER, and I was just like, oh wow, I want to be like these people, and you know, it's like when you see something, you can kind of identify with it. So when I went to medical school, I was like, okay, I'm going to do emergency medicine. Like my mom was an ER nurse, I'm familiar with it. You know, I can do this. And I think that I realized during one of my clerkships on third year, as I was visiting the ER, I ran into some urology residents who went to go see one of the patients. And one of the urology residents looked at me and they're like, you know, you'd be a really good urologist. And I was like, what does that mean? And that really kind of piqued my interest because I was kind of so tunnel vision, like, okay, made it to med school. This is what I'm going to do. I know this. I'm comfortable with this. I'm going to do this. And this is what I say to my medical students and even my residents now, which is sometimes other people will see something in you that you just don't realize. And you're kind of just working really hard. You're doing the things. And out of nowhere, someone will come to you and kind of spark this little, push you in a little direction. And then you're like, oh, wow, let me just try it out. And I think that that was very valuable for me. I had no idea what urology was. And also, I'm the first person in my family to go to medical school as well. So I didn't really have, you know, a path, really. The path wasn't very clear. But I tell my med students and residents all the time that sometimes a little opening will come up. You'll realize that, hey, this is something that I want to check out. And I eventually did ENT. I did a rotation in ENT, which I loved. And I also did a rotation in urology, and I realized urology was it. I really loved the people. I loved the lifelong learning that you can get for urology. You treat patients for the whole lifespan. So I see patients as young as 18, and I actually, in my practice, I have 203-year-olds, and I see men and women. So it's just been a really rewarding, wonderful career. And I also operate, I do procedures, and I also medically manage patients.
Sounds good. Maybe I missed my calling. So I matched into internal medicine. I chose several places. I wanted to stay in New England. My family's from New Jersey. And Boston seemed pretty attractive, so I have listed a few places up there. Here, Rhode Island Hospital, and actually a couple places in New York City. And then I let fate intervene, the computer, and I ended up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at Mount Auburn Hospital, one of the Harvard teaching hospitals in internal medicine, which was a great place to train because it was a community hospital, but academic, kind of like the Miriam here. And the mentors, the people I ran into, were general internists who were in private practice, who came and saw their patients in the hospital, knew their patients, were very much models for me. And I admired that. I mean, I was exposed to all the specialties, but they, I wanted to be a well-rounded physician. And the director of the residency program was an amazing person, Charles Hatem, just a real leader in general internal medicine, and he just kind of wowed me in his bedside manner and how he would speak to patients, how he knew the history of patients, how he would elicit their complaint and see them as a person, very much a humanist. And so I stayed in internal medicine. Now, after 2 years at Mount Auburn, I felt like, I had mastered it. I was really, going up to my senior residency, there wasn't anything more for me to learn. Right. So the opportunity opened up for me to transfer to the Beth Israel Hospital, which is one of the major Harvard teaching hospitals, very academic, much larger. So as a senior resident, I moved over there. Now that was quite a transition and quite a challenge, because I found that much of what I had learned was somewhat parochial. That is, who's the cardiologist you want to call for this kind of patient? Where are the test tubes? How do you order a scan? All that stuff was very much localized to this hospital. And when I went to that hospital, it was entirely different. And their approach to various things, is it a pulmonary embolism? They had a different protocol. Some were better and some were not. It was a period of growth, and I think it was a challenge. And frankly, for the first few months, I was rather depressed because I figured I didn't learn it. I didn't know anything. So I guess the life lesson there is that it's okay to stretch and to challenge and to transition. In the end, I was able to feel like I wasn't an imposter, that I belonged there, and then got a advanced fellowship in general internal medicine at Harvard for 2 more years. So I still couldn't decide on a specialty. I stayed in academic general medicine and learned how to be a teacher and learned how to do research. And from there, I took a position back at my home hospital, Mount Auburn, in the faculty and working in the clinic. And my career goes on from there, but I'll stop right there.
I appreciate how you both touched on the point of being adaptable for a career in medicine. And I'm wondering if you could maybe expand on some career shifts that you have experienced throughout your journey and how you navigated them and were adaptable to those changes.
Sure. So, in addition to, training in urology, one of my first jobs out with Mount Sinai, I actually really felt that I loved the clinical work. I loved seeing patients. I loved operating. I loved learning the new technologies, working with my hands. But then I also loved medical education. And actually, in my first job, I negotiated for, in addition to being a clinical urologist, I also said, hey, there's no associate residency program director here at this department. Would you be interested in having me take that role? And my chair was like, sure. And so I became the APD for my residency program for the last 10 years. So I was very, very involved in graduate medical education. I also helped to head the wellness program there. And I think that this was just a really great balance for me. So I guess the bottom line for this statement is I love clinical medicine, I love urology, but there's also one little other aspect of me, which is teaching. And I find it extremely rewarding. And now I've transitioned from being GME or graduate medical education. Now I'm in UME, which is undergraduate medical education. I'm with the medical school now. So, and that's a really exciting, again, I've been with the medical school now in this position for 3 years, and it's been very exciting because we've transitioned from what we call a legacy program, which is 4 years of medical school. Now we've truncated it to 18 months in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So it's a little bit of a different curriculum, but it's really been wonderful developing that sort of side to to myself in terms of a career, the medical education part as well as the clinical part. I still see patients, 4 days a week, and I operate. So again, I just want to say there's so many paths in medicine. You just don't have to be stuck operating, 5 days a week if you don't want to. And of course, I have partners who love this because they're like, wow, look, Vannita's doing this. So I get to operate more. And it's just been a really great partnership. So residents and med students ask me all the time, is this how my life, what's your life like? Do you have to operate every day? And the answer is no. You as you advance, you can kind of pick and choose what you want.
So I guess I want to talk about two topics. One is education. The best way to learn is to teach. And as I said, I took a fellowship in teaching. And when I went to Mount Auburn, I was very much involved in teaching residents and also Harvard medical students. I had an appointment at the Harvard Medical School and was involved in developing their new curriculum, as it was called back in the 80s, with Charlie Hayden and some other people, case-based learning. I also ran seminars for the staff, and I continued in that role when I moved to MIT in 1990, where I was for 28 years, where I ran 2 or 3 conferences a week, bringing in specialists, talking about primary care. And I always learned, as I prepared for these, I learned for myself, and I think I became a better clinician. And in the course of time, I got promoted at Harvard Medical to associate professor. But my career wasn't primarily aimed towards academic promotion. That was sort of another achievement. And when I think about it over my career, I liked having goals. In fact, I think I wrote them down. Because, you get your bachelor's degree, you get your medical degree, you get your residency, what's next? You get your fellowship. There's still room on the wall for more certificates. So, while I was a young faculty, I took courses at Harvard to get a certificate in administration and management, which ultimately helped me become a leader in my medical department. I also eventually became a fellow in the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. And at MIT, I was involved in a 2-year leadership program run by the Sloan School. And each of these was a curriculum, it was a goal, it was something to achieve, it was an opportunity that I took, and that continuous learning, made, kept me from feeling like I was, trapped in a narrow space. And my career evolved along with that. The other thing is that, I forget the question, but I think it was something about a turn or a twist or something. So here I was at Mount Auburn Hospital. I'd been there a few years, and I was approached as one of the people in the clinic to the employee health nurse needed a doctor to kind of be her wingman, I guess, that they needed a physician from time to time. And would I do that for employee health for the hospital, 3,000 employees? I said, okay, you give me a half a day, I'll do that, So I started getting involved in that. And it became kind of interesting, the employee health, because it dealt with not only reacting, but also prevention, which to me was part of my whole primary care orientation. Like, let's create a work environment that's safe so people don't come in with needle sticks, so they don't come in with back pain, so they don't come in with latex allergies, et cetera. And it got me thinking along these lines. I began studying to become better at it. And after a few years, the hospital started feeding us local companies that needed occupational health services. And they said, can you do this for UPS? Can you do this for this biotech company? Can you do this for this electronic manufacturer? And we said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And I would go out and do risk assessment. I would see how people would be working. and researching and what their exposures were, and then design a preventative health program. And also when they became injured or ill, we'd know how to modify their work, how to treat them in the proper way. And that's how I sort of backed into occupational medicine. And eventually I took courses and sat for the boards and became board certified in occupational environmental medicine. So that was nothing, that was not on the radar in medical school or in residency. And it, you know, I had no idea, but it became a very important part of my career and very fulfilling one. And by the way, I highly recommend it. We could use some more people in occupational environmental medicine.
I'm curious to know if there were any ways that your Brown education specifically prepared you to grow in your career and maybe take chances.
You want me to go first this time? Well, I think, as I already stated, having a humanistic undergraduate education helped me be a humane physician and relate to people. There was one opportunity that I had, which I think it speaks to this question. So I was an undergrad here. There wasn't a medical school. At the end of my sophomore year, they were starting it up. And they approached people who were in this master's program, which I was in medical science. They say, do you want to go to medical school? Brown, we're starting one up. I said, yeah. They said, okay. That's how I got into medical school. I did have an interview with one of the faculty. He was a father of a prep school friend of mine. We had a nice chat. But it was, you know.
That was not the way I got into
Yeah,
medical
I know.
school.
I know. Sorry, I'm sort of a fossil here, but and it was a 7-year program, so 3 years undergrad and then 4 years of a regular medical curriculum, basically. So, but somewhere in the cold winter, fall of my junior year, I was in the basement of the science library and I was reading this journal called Brain for one of my psychology classes, and I saw that the editor was at the Brain Institute in Zurich, Switzerland, and I fantasized, like, maybe, you know, that'd be fun, you know. Maybe I could take a year off and go to Switzerland and learn German and do brain research and ski, you know. And I kind of worked with that for a little bit, and I was able to contact the director, and he said, you know, you can, yeah, we'll take you on, Brown medical student, sure. So then I had to go to the founding dean, Stan Aronson, and say, I need a year off. You know, you're just starting this medical school, you want me in, but I want to take a year. And he asked me a question. He said, well, you know, if you spend this year, it's one less year that you're going to be doing medicine, that you're going to be helping people, that you're going to be healing, that you're going to be applying this education that we're investing in you. Is it worth that year? You know. And I came up with a good answer to that question, which, you know, remains true. I said, I don't weigh it that year versus this year. I view the rest of my life having had this experience versus the rest of my life having not had this experience. And as it turned out, he agreed. And so I went away for a year and came back to medical school. And during that year, I learned research techniques. I was training monkeys. We were doing brain research. I did learn German. I did experience the cultural differences of living abroad. And all those experiences, actually, I used the rest of my career. When I was at MIT, one of my occupational medicine responsibilities was taking care of researchers and animal care technicians, which included, you know, brain research on monkeys and, you know, mice and pigs and a lot of other things. And I could relate to that. I could relate to the researchers because I had worked alongside researchers. And every once in a while I got to use my German and the French that I learned in school, including here. That just kind of enriched my whole life experience in medicine. But who knew? You know, I didn't know that I was going to end up at MIT, but there it was. So Brown allowed me to do that.
Thank you for sharing. Dr. Chang?
So now that I'm a proud Brown parent, I have a freshman right now at Brown right now. He actually is not here because he's still sleeping in his room, but I'm here for family weekend. It's just been a different perspective for me to come back and think about how wonderful Brown was and how it truly laid the foundation for making me brave and allowing me to take chances in my career. The first example I gave already was just when I was given this job offer and I kind of slipped in another title. I don't think I probably would have thought about that had I not been in an environment where taking chances was valued as an undergrad. Now that I'm in my role with medical education, I was just telling Tenny, I went to, of course, I go to urology conferences and we learn all the new up-to-date technologies, surgeries, diagnoses, medications for patients. So that's the one side. But now I attend the AAMC national conferences. And the first conference that I went to, I was walking in the lobby. I didn't know anybody. And, everybody else from my medical school were coming in the next day. And I literally ran into 3 other people who I knew from undergrad at Brown. And they're deans at Yale, Johns Hopkins. And I was just like, oh my, and I had not seen them in years, but we all went out to dinner and it was really wonderful because it's not only, it's meeting people who share the same interests as you. So not only do I have the joy of meeting other urologists at conferences and making new connections, I feel as though, again, this medical education aspect of me has opened up and where I'm able to revisit and new relationships, new professional relationships, and engage further in different ways. So my colleagues and I have put together presentations and we're going to conferences together. So it's another aspect. So that is just to say, this is just kind of one step in a very long career journey, and it's been wonderful.
Thank you both so much for such insightful and thoughtful answers. We now want to open it up to the audience for a Q&A if anyone has any questions.
Hi. Yes, thank you for sharing. I was wondering, how do you see? I mean, you talked a lot about about formation period. How do you see medicine going forward from now on? What's going on now? With so many changes and different things happening. Thank you.
Good luck with that, right? So my daughter, by the way, is a PGY1 in family medicine here at Brown. So I watched her go through medical school, which was much different than when I went through medical school, where we had no cell phones, no computers, no internet, And, I worked at MIT for 20 years. 30 years. I saw the future, in front of me. And the future isn't what it used to be, right? It's going to be very dynamic with AI and the manpower issues and the financing, and the advances in medical technology and treatments. It's as in the past. I mean, I'm here. I made it through 50 years of a lot of change. It may be accelerating, but I think that the only thing constant is change, and the way you stay on that is that you constantly are learning and educating and reaching towards that new what's ahead. I think the core mission, the calling of medicine, is not changing. You get in that exam room, you're with the patient, that relationship won't change. There's the computer next to you, and there's a whole lot of information now available. But I think that the main approach is just to be a constant learner. And as long as you're prepared by having learned how to learn, how to be a critical thinker, you're going to succeed.
So I still practice clinically, and I get this question asked all the time by med students and residents about what's the future of medicine. And just to give you an example, I'm 3 months booked out with patients. I'm booking till January. There's a huge demand, and people still want to see people. I have patients who come in, bring me articles and ask me questions that they've used ChatGPT their diagnoses. What do you think about this? And I can tell them, and I can look them in the eye and say, that is not wrong. And that's going back to the lifelong learning, being able to gain the skills that you get in medical school, where you're able to read and analyze journal articles, and you know what studies are the right ones and what are the wrong ones. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. And AI, yes, it is getting better and better exponentially every day. People still want to hear from people, and people still want to be operated on not by robots, but they want a person there, and they want to know that somebody cares for them. So I don't think that physicians are going to be replaced easily by AI.
Thank you for your perspective, which was incredibly helpful to hear. Both of you focused on adaptability, lifelong learning, curiosity, flexibility. I am curious if you were to advise students who are still in undergrad but know that they're committed to going to medicine, what skill set or subject matter expertise do you think, in addition to those personal attributes, would you say are important now, looking forward to the medicine in the future? For instance, do you think data science and being facile with quantitative analysis are more important now than they were before?
I think those skills have always been important. I remember in medical school going to statistics class and being like, what is this? And realizing that those Kaplan-Meier curves and those, 0.01 statistical significance, just being able to read and understand. I mean, medical school is a professional school, and we need to have a certain level of expertise and be able to interpret those things. Just like when a patient comes in and they'll give me a stack of papers, like, here's all my medical records. An AI can probably run through that, but will still give me the wrong information. And I like to kind of look through everything myself and see the data myself to understand that. I don't think you need to be, get a PhD in AI or anything. I think that medical schools now, again, I mentioned that I've attended a lot of national medical conferences. It's at the forefront of what we're concerned about. So a lot of physicians are actually learning AI. I've gone to a course, and I'm actually going to be teaching a course next year at my urology conference about AI. So I think that there's certain language and certain skill sets that you've touched upon that are extremely important. I don't think one is more important than the other. I think soft skills will always be important. Team building, working in teams, understanding how to talk to intergenerationally, what values. I see, as you can imagine, I see 18, I'm not a pediatric urologist, so I can't have to X out the peds portion of it, but I see 18-year-olds all the way up to 103-year-olds, and the values and the questions that each of those types of patients are very, very different. And I have to adjust the way I talk to patients and kind of understand what their concerns are when they come to me. So I think that team building, people skills are very important, but also the harder skills that you mentioned, just being able to analyze and understand scientific journals is important. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm kind of two minds for the answer to this question. I think the soft skills, as they're called, are the critical skills. I think as an undergrad, you want to get as broad in education as you can. Look, all this technology will be constantly changing, and you'll have to learn it as it comes along. Learning it now, becoming, skilled in programming in R or Q or whatever language they're using, that's not going to be 3 years from now. In fact, the computer's going to program themselves. So that whole, I think, being well-rounded as a person, learning soft skills, learning critical thinking, epidemiology and statistics, much more important than physical chemistry or Latin, going back, right? I mean, I think that those are the sciences, they're not so soft, maybe they're semi-soft, that are important to know so that you can evaluate the literature as it comes to you, as new knowledge comes to you, but also having that broad background so you can relate to people of all generations and all cultures. Get as broad an experience, because it's a practice of medicine. You don't graduate and know anything. You don't graduate your residency and know everything. Every few years, the medicines I used, 30 years ago, are in the museum. So I think you kind of be able to have those skills and not think ahead and say, well, how do I have to know this more, computer science, or data science, unless you're interested, because certainly there's a future in good data science being applied to medicine. But that wasn't my thing, but it could be an individual thing. Have a passion and pursue it if you have it. If you don't, learn until you come across an opportunity or a person that inspires you and gives you that passion.
It's so great hearing from you, so thank you. The non-linear path that you both went on and are still on, do you think that's a norm? I'm just, in my mind, I hear, oh, you go to medical school, you're a doctor. But I'm learning more and more, it just keeps changing and changing. Do you think that that's a norm?
I don't have the data on that, but I'll tell you, of the 58 people, 22% were women of my medical school group, my class. There were a handful of people who knew what they wanted to be from the get-go, and they became that. Dermatologists, radiologists, oncologists. Many of us did not. And my guess is that everyone has had evolving careers. There aren't many people who sit in one place and do the same thing for 30 years, and that's their medical career. I wanted to, there's a quote that came to mind, but I didn't know it entirely, so I had to ChatGPT it. And it's given my liberal arts education. It's from Kierkegaard. It's a philosopher. And I'm just going to read it. It is really true what philosophy tells us, that life must be understood backwards. But with this, one forgets the second proposition, that it must be lived forwards, a proposition which, the more it is subjected to careful thought, the more it ends up concluding precisely that life at any given moment cannot really ever be fully understood. And that's, I think Steve Jobs said it, you can't connect the dots forward just looking backwards. And if I look at my career, that's the way it happened. So yeah, my guess is that life, both your personal life and your professional life, always have inflection points. And you have to bring your skill set and what you've learned along the way and move in that direction when that's the way you need to go.
I don't think I have an answer just because like I don't have the data. I can only talk about my own experience, and I think the reason why it's nice for this to be presented is that you don't feel like you're trapped. And if you decide, and as you were asking the question, I was thinking of some colleagues who are urologists, and they're extremely happy. They don't do medical education. They haven't gone on to do masters or do anything, and they have wonderful, fulfilling careers as well. So I would say I don't have the data in terms of what percentage and if my experience is abnormal or not. But I think I think it's still valuable for med students and residents and trainees and undergrads to hear that if you're on this path and you kind of realize that you want something else, it is possible to pivot to something else. Of course, I think the default is fine. The urology part of my career is extremely fulfilling, but again, there's this little, side part that I enjoy as well. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. So my last question to you both is, how can family members support medical students, trainees, undergraduate students who are interested in medicine? What are your words of wisdom?
Yeah, I saw that question in the prep, and I'm not sure I have the answer to that. I mean, my parents helped me by paying tuition, which is no small thing, particularly these days. And they supported my decisions. I mean, they didn't really know the kind of choices I was making. They didn't have any idea, but they trusted me. And maybe I bounced some ideas off them, but I don't remember much. I think I was a fully formed adult, and I was making my own decisions. And they basically were emotionally available and supported me. But they weren't sending me text messages with, look at this, look at that. They kind of let me do my own thing. But again, I'm dating myself here.
I think that, again, I'm first generation going to medical school, and my family didn't really know what I was going through or what to expect. And I didn't either. But now, having gone through it and working with families and working with med students and residents, I think that the most important thing is being there and allowing space for your student or trainee to come talk to you about things. It's medical education and being in a residency program is incredibly time demanding. And I've missed weddings and birthday parties and family vacations just because during that time of my life, I was dedicated to studying and being in the hospital and rounding at, waking up at 4:30 a.m., pre-rounding, rounding, operating until midnight, taking call 24 hours a day. I mean, it is, when you meet another physician, you're like, yeah, right. Like, kind of know what the life is like. And for families or friends who don't understand that, I think it's just super important for you just to continue to show up for them. So as an example, my really wonderful dear friends, even though I would say I can't meet you for dinner, just keep on asking me. And when I do have time to take a breath out of that, hard rotation or hard couple of weeks where I had to study anatomy or, study for the OSCE, I'll come and rejoin you at some point. But just be there as a constant presence, I think would be the advice that I would give to family or friends who are unfamiliar with medical education or residency.
I have a kind of a different comment that kind of responds to yours.
I hope it's a good response.
Well, yes, and yes, and relationships and work-life balance. there are these choices to make. Should I study another 2 hours to get a 98 versus a 95 on my exam? Or should I go out to dinner with a friend, or attend a life event, or go out salsa dancing? You know, what should I do? If that question was put to me, I would say it's all about relationships. It's all about community. You know, you have to have that. That's what's going to sustain you in life. That's going to sustain you through your residency. My daughter, the PGY1, during medical school, I don't know how she did this. She became a certified yoga instructor, and she salsa dances, and she's hiking Mount Monadnock during her internship with her brother. And I applaud that. I mean, you can't kind of put your life off forever, hoping that one day you'll be able to do this. You have to invest along the way. So I agree. There are times it is that where you have to commit, and you have to realize that this is important. But there are other times that it's a little bit more marginal, and lean into sustaining those relationships with family, with friends, with community, and that, because that ultimately is what brings life meaning and purpose, and that's what you need to get through a lot of crap that comes down the road. So that's my gloss to what you said.
Well, a round of applause for you both. Thank you so much for this rich discussion. It was incredibly impactful for me, and I hope for everyone here as well. And on that note, I would like to please welcome up Nicole Vaughn to come up and share a little bit about the Medical Parents Committee before we all break for lunch. Thank you all for being here.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, we're going to pause for just a moment. Just turn to the person next to you and say hello. Just say hello. Just to break up the air a little bit. Well, thank you, Dr. Diamond, Dr. Simma-Chiang. Thank you, Tenny, for your time today. It was invaluable. Every word that you spoke was helpful to me, and I'm sure to everyone here. Thank you, Dr. Chiang, for being here this afternoon and just supporting the gathering of families. And thank you to the development team for all the work to put together this meaningful program. My name is Nicole Vaughn, and I stand here representing the Medical Parent Committee. And my husband, LaSalle, is in Dallas, Texas, with my son, who's a senior in high school. And my daughter is here a third year at Brown in the PLEMI program. Her name's Sydney. She's over there. She came to meet me, and just thank you, Sydney, for putting notes in a folder for me. Really appreciate that, keeping us organized as a family all the way here in Providence. So thank you for continuing to do that. So we joined the Medical Parent Committee a year ago after seeing the Davises speak. And I just want to say first, thank you to the Shaw family. I think they're here, the Shaw family. You all stand up for a moment just so people can see you. The Shaw family. There are leaders of the Medical Parent Committee, and then the Davis family, if you all could please stand up. These are all very humble people, but they do a lot for us in the background. So thank you all for trusting me to be here to represent the group. My job here today is to encourage you to join the Medical Parent Committee. It is an invaluable experience, and I can tell you that it's helped illuminate a lot for us as a family. Our family comes from a background where we have no medical people, no medical profession of any kind on any side. I say vertically or horizontally, generations behind and the only one to come. And so being a part of the Medical Parent Committee has been illuminating for all of us as a family. We have been able to, in just this 1 year as a family, we get to contact new families, which has created connection. Dr. Diamond, you said it perfectly, relationship and community is invaluable. And by being a part of the Medical Parent Committee, we have been able to make friends and create a community that has helped us in a year with a lot of, we had fears as a family. We didn't know how to support well. And being a part of the medical parent committee has helped us learn how to support and navigate. So I encourage you all to join. But on top of contacting families, we also get to donate. And there's a donation that occurs. You'll probably get a phone call or an email. And when you donate, I learned today that when you donate to the medical fund, you get dual credit. So I know this is an overachieving group, right? So I heard that if you donate to the medical fund, you also get credit with the Brown Fund. So that's really good news, right? We also get to meet as families. So the people in the medical parent committee meet at a minimum quarterly through Zoom, but a lot of times we talk in between because we have WhatsApp. I text them sometimes questions, and we share experiences as we're working together to help support our students, and that's been helpful. We also answer questions, so if any of you or anyone you know have questions about your student's experience, we're very open to share what we know. We're, of course, not experts. We don't work for Brown, but we can just share what we know and what we've learned, and so please reach out to the Medical Parent Committee at any time. We're happy to help. And finally, just me personally, I've been able to, again, no medical background. I'm in technology. And so I was hesitant about joining the committee because I thought, what could I possibly offer? And I often ask them, am I doing anything to help, right? And so they allow me to use my technical experience to bring opportunities for outreach to the committee, which has been nice because then I actually feel like I can contribute. So every single person sitting in the seat here and at the seat and the table, you have something invaluable to bring to our community. So I encourage you to go downstairs and sign your name to the sheet so that you can join our efforts and mission to support the medical school. There are benefits for being a member. Members enjoy exclusive invitations and receive regular updates and communications throughout the year. You'll also have unique opportunities to engage directly with medical school faculty and leadership in meetings. And you may get to the point where actually hugging, the deans, hugging faculty because you speak with them and they get to know you, they get to know your student. And you find that there are really low barriers to this community. It starts to feel like family. So the work we do as a committee plays an important role in ensuring our students have the support and resources they need to succeed in the demanding world of medicine. We're always looking for new members, and if you're interested, again, you can see the Davises here, they're here, and the Shaws are there. And again, where's the table? Does anybody remember the table? Oh, it's right out here. It's right outside. So you just go right outside to the day. I said downstairs because I was upstairs earlier. We're already downstairs. So the table is right outside. Please sign your name. Even if you have an inkling of hesitation and you wonder, like, what am I really signing up for? Just throw that away. Sign your name, and someone will contact you and share with you how you can engage with us. So now I have the pleasure to invite you to fellowship and eat with us in the atrium for lunch. So this program is concluded. Thank you again, Tenny and Dr. Diamond and Dr. Simma-Chiang for your insights. Thank you to Kristen Carboni for her work, and we'll see you at lunch. Thank you.